Thanks very much, Sarah Jane. Well, let's get some reaction now from the two main parties. With me, Treasury spokesman Priti Patel for the Conservatives and Chris Leslie for Labour. Welcome to you indeed. Just want to clarify something in this 85-page document. A Labour government will cut the deficit every year. What does that actually mean?
Well, rather than seeing the deficit increase in budgets throughout the next Parliament, we'll make sure that we reduce it. Now, we're going to inherit a deficit of, £75 billion, far more than we were promised was going to be the case. It should have been gone by now. We should have even been talking about it. But we want to reduce that from 75 billion and get the current budget into balance and then surplus as soon as possible in the next Parliament.
So when you say cut, you mean cut in cash terms, not just percentage of GDP terms?
Well, I hope both. I mean, we want to cut the deficit year after year. And in fact, what we've said is that we'll put our budget as one of the budget responsibility locks that we've put into that page one of the manifesto. We'll put that budget to the Office for Budget Responsibility. So they will have to certify that the measures in the budget will have that effect. And that is a really important guarantee.
I mean, it has to be said, as we were hearing there in our reports, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, the sort of OBR's representative on Earth, aren't too impressed. That's where the big unknown is with Labour's plans. How much they'll be comfortable to borrow each year?
Well, except I think what you heard from the Institute for Fiscal Studies is they were looking at perhaps the Conservative.
The answers what you're going to do.
They were looking at the Conservatives fixing that arbitrary date. Now we've said yes, the deficit will be gone by 2020, but we want to try and obviously clear that sooner if we can, and that of course does depend in part on our ability to get growth going in the economy, so that we can get a higher wage economy and reduce the need to subsidise low pay through all those extra tax credits and get the revenues flowing in.
I mean, Priti Patel, that all sounds pretty responsible. Have they shot your fox?
Absolutely not, Adam. I think what we've heard today from Ed Miliband is the fact, or the reiteration again, that there is no economic competence with the Labour Party. There is clearly no plan. The IFS themselves...
It's here.
It's not credible.
Budget responsibility, triple lock.
But it's easy to make those platitudes. It's about the substance, and also it's about the track record. Labour do not have a solid track record when it comes to economic competence. And also I think when it comes to some of the detail, you've heard the comments from the IFS, you yourself has referred to them as well. You know, the public who want to trust the political parties when it comes to borrowing, taxes, and also deficit reduction.
So we've got to take it on trust for you, but when they put it in black and white, that's not good enough.
Actually, take it from competence from us, as you've seen what we've been doing in the last Parliament as well.
But you got rid of the deficit.
We have been reducing the deficit while making very difficult decisions as well.
You did promise that you wouldn't have one by now.
We have been reducing the deficit, and let's not forget, we are saying...
Darling said he was going to do it.
Well, we have been reducing the deficit. We have reduced the deficit, and also we've been making very difficult public spending decisions as well, and importantly, protecting public services while making them.
Do you accept that you have made now £20 billion, is what Labour are claiming, of uncosted spending promises?
No, absolutely not. We have been clear, and we have said that we will continue.
So the $8 billion for the health service,
we would continue with the progress that we have made already during the course of this Parliament, and we will continue to get the economy back on track, making, yes, difficult public spending choices and decisions. We've been public, £30 billion of consolidation is required, and we will do that. We will do that. We have outlined.
Look, I would love to promise all sorts of things, but we've said, and I think it's important, that where we make a promise, we say exactly where the money comes from. You can't say the same in all conscience of what the Conservatives have been doing, racking up as they panic, you know, on a health service, on tax commitments, on rail fares.
It's not them who said the health service needs $8 billion.
But it's a fantasy that they can fund
let's listen
Tell us where the money
what the
comes
Chief
from.
Executive of the King's Fund has told us today about your manifesto.
It's a surprise that Labour hasn't matched the pledges of the other two main parties to put £8 billion more into the NHS by 2020, but also their plans to repeal the Health and Social Care Act could result in distracting reorganisation and structural change just when the NHS needs to focus on delivering better patient care and saving money.
So you're the only party not pledging to come up with the money that the NHS says it needs. You're also, according to them, promising another top-down reorganisation. And you say you're the party of the NHS.
But do you really want us to make hollow pledges and promises that are completely from fantasy and are not funded. We've said, our first step...
Well, Andy Burnham is saying the Conservatives would destroy the NHS if they get back into power.
I think we know
they're
their
saying they'd find the money, and you're saying you wouldn't find the money.
Of course, look, we've said very clearly our first step in making sure that we get to some of that proper funding is the 2.5 billion of a time to care fund, partly from the mansion tax of raising on £2 million and above value of properties, a significant amount of money for 20,000 extra nurses and 8,000 doctors. Now, you can see there, we've said where the money comes from and we say where it goes to, and that's the first step, the down payment towards repairing our NHS.
The man in charge of the NHS says he needs more, and the other parties are saying they would match it, and you're saying you wouldn't. I mean, is that a fair representation of the facts?
He set out his version of what he thinks that trajectory needs to be.
You think he's wrong?
We've said, no, I think it's certainly an important interpretation of what's needed for the NHS.
But you haven't got the money.
But we've said this is our first step towards it, that 2.5 billion. Now, tell me another political party that's even put a penny down for its first step. You can, with all the will in the world, make all sorts of promises. People want to know where's the money coming from.
Are we going to get a firm idea of where this 8 billion is going to come from the Prime Minister tomorrow?
I think what I would say, Adam, is that tomorrow we'll get a much better and a positive vision for the future of our country with the launch of our manifesto.
Vision. We're talking about, are we going to find out where the money is?
Central to that
told us where he can get the money
valuing
from.
and protecting our public services, which is key, the NHS.
But where are you going to get the 8 billion from?
We are being clear in terms of where we will find the money from. We will continue with the reforms that we've undertaken so far in consolidation of the public finances, but also continue to invest in the NHS.
But the problem is,
that commitment is very clear. We are the only party that has been doing that. We've done that in government.
But the problem is, on your present model, the man you appointed to run the NHS says you'll be running at least 8 billion short, if not 22 billion. You said over the weekend you're going to match that. I'm just asking where the money's going to come from.
We will be very clear in terms of how that commitment will be made. You'll hear more, obviously, in terms of the future in the outline of the manifesto tomorrow. But I think we should be clear that we are the only party very clearly putting in the 8 billion that is required. And
anything in. It's a hollow pledge.
It's not a hollow pledge at all. We've been committed. Let's not forget, back in December in the autumn statement, we gave 2 billion for the NHS. That money we are committed. That money we are committed to funding the NHS. That money is there, going into frontline care for patients.
But are you still wedded to this surplus, for example?
Well, for the next Parliament, we are committed to that, absolutely.
And
we are committed to exactly
and the 7 billion tax cut that you Prime Minister promised.
We are committed to reducing tax on working families, and that is central to our belief in supporting families and households, but also protecting.
Add up, does it?
It does, actually, Adam, because it is a continuation of what we have been doing in this Parliament as well.
You didn't do what you said you would do
we
in
are
this Parliament. You said
you'd
get rid of the deficit. You halved it.
We are the first to say the job is not yet done in terms of consolidation of the public finances, but importantly, having the ability through responsible management of the economy to continue to invest in our public services as well. And that is the difference between us and the Labour Party. It is about competence in government versus the prospect of higher taxes for working families and working households with the Labour Party.
Are you prepared to say that you would spend more on the NHS than...
Well, I think it's clear that we are committed to the NHS and will continue to invest in the NHS.
You spend more than Labour?
I think it's very clear that the
hole you're digging is getting deeper. And I'm loath to interrupt this because I think you're actually pinning it down quite well here. But it now occurs to me, this is why George Osborne rejected the Office for Budget Responsibility from auditing the commitments, the spending of all the parties. He didn't want to do that, and now we know why.
I just want to ask you, as things stand, with all your fiscal responsibility and your triple lock and all that, you are accepting, I'm not saying whether it can be delivered or not, but in terms of the basic offer to the voters at this election, that Labour is proposing to spend less on the NHS than the Conservatives are.
No, because I don't believe that they will spend this fantasy figure that they say. The concrete figure that we know can be delivered is because we've taken the tough decision for those living in properties of £2 million and above who don't like our proposal to levy that mansion tax. They don't like that, and it makes that as unpopular with them, but we've said we want them to chip in more because our health service needs it. Now, I think if you're going to promise extra money, you've got to be able to say where it comes from.
They are promising more. You accept they're promising more?
I don't accept it's a real promise.
OK, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you both very much.